guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first video, so kindly like, subscribe, and click on the bell icon so you can get notified when I release subsequent videos. So today we'll be looking at AWS Systems Manager, Session Manager, AWS SSM Session Manager. And what does this service, what does it do? So let's go to AWS documentation to see what it does. Okay, from the documentation, it says Session Manager is a fully managed AWS Systems Manager tool. With Session Manager, you can manage your Amazon Elastic Cloud Compute, that's your Amazon EC2, edge devices, on-prem servers, VMs, and then you can use either the interactive one-click browser-based shell on the AWS or the AWS CLI. So we'll be showing both the browser-based and also the CLI. And this is just going to free you of the burden of having to open SSH ports in your security group, port 22. Also managing SSH keys, especially for large number of servers. It can be cumbersome and really stressful. So you don't need to do all of that. All you need to do is use SSM Session Manager to manage your instances. And this will also help you reduce your attack surface because you don't have to open port 22, like I said earlier, and also easy for you to connect. So now looking at this diagram, you can see we have our EC2 instance, and EC2 instance, you have to install something called the SSM agent on your EC2 instance or your on-prem servers. But you would find the SSM agent installed by default on Amazon Linux AMIs. And you have to attach a role, which is a role that allows SSM, that allows the agent to connect and talk to SSM, right? And for your security group, really, since you're not using SSH, you don't need to open port 22. So if this is a web server, for instance, there's no reason to open port 22 on your web server. So you might just want to open maybe port 80 and port 443, which is the HTTP ports, and 443 HTTPS ports. And also your user needs to have access to EC2 instance in this case, and also SSM as well, the session manager, because if your user tries to connect to your instance through the SSM, SSM verifies with IAM to see if the user has the proper access. Then after verifying with IAM, then it sends the request to your EC2 instance, and the response goes back to the user. So this is just the flow. And you can see from the explanation here, it says the IAM role is configured for granting necessary permission for the SSM agent installed on the server. So the SSM agent can easily communicate with the AWS SSM. And also, we'll just move on to the demo. So we also have a user already created, Sally, and this user has EC2 full access, SSM full access, EC2 Instance Connect, and this is if you want to connect using Instance Connect. And Instance Connect actually still leverages on the SSH ports, right? So it just allows you connect from your management console. And also, if you look at the roles, the EC2 instance that has been created right here, a role has been attached to it. You can see the EC2 instance. It's called the SSM test server, currently has a public IP. And let's look at the role attached to it. So you click on this, check this box for the server. Then you go to actions, security, then modify IAM roles. So you can see an SSM instance role has been attached to this instance. So now let's see what the SSM IAM role, what it is, what policy does it have. Then we go to roles. This is the SSM instance role that was attached to the EC2 instance. And let's see the policies. So you can see the policy is the Amazon SSM managed instance core, right? So these are the actions that this policy allows. So basically, this is just going to allow the EC2 instance to talk to SSM, basically the agent, the SSM agent installed on the instance to talk to SSM. So now the next thing to just show is connecting to the instance using SSH to confirm. So let's look at the security group that we have. Come here to security and then click on this security group. I could just open that on a new tab. So we'll see if we have SSH port opened. So right now we don't have SSH port opened. So if we try to connect to our instance using SSH, it's not going to allow. So let me just come here. Oh, I think I need to get the public IP of my instance first, so I can copy it from right here. Then go to my terminal, do SSH-I. Then also the key. One thing is the key that was used in creating this SSH instance. Um, okay, right here, the SSM server key. I already have it downloaded locally, so I can just make reference to it, the SSH. Uh, is it SSM or SSH? Let me confirm that once again. SSM server key. So let me see if I have that downloaded locally. Okay, right here. So I can do SSH-I SSM um, server key.pem. Then EC2 user. Then I put my public IP address, and I try to connect. So this is not going to allow me connect using SSH because the SSH permission, the SSH port is not opened in the security group. All right. So after we have confirmed that, and also if you try to use the instance connect as well to connect to this instance, it won't allow you because the SSH port has been disabled. So it's just going to try to connect and then it's going to time out or throw an error. Okay, great. So it's not allowing connection to the instance and we know why. So I'm just going to close this right here. So great. Now that we've confirmed that SSH port is not opened and you can connect to the server using SSH. So now let's try to use the SSM Session Manager and all the permission assigned to the user. So I'll just take it back real quick. Sally, and these are the roles attached to the user, right? So even though instance connect role was attached to this user, the user can still connect via SSH because the port is not opened in the security group. So I'm just going to log in as this particular user. So I'm going to use another incognito tab, sign in to console, Sally, and then I try to enter the password. Okay, so now I'm logged in as Sally. Great. So now I'll just try to, and also something else that I should mention is on my terminal, the AWS CLI has been configured with the secret key and access key created for Sally. So if you do AWS configure my terminal, oops, configure um, list, and then put profile name of Sally, right? So this is Sally profile that has been configured on my terminal. You have the secret key and the access key, and also the default region, right? You can see the active connections to your EC2 instance. So right here, I have one active connection. So if you come to Session Manager and you click on, you can see you have one active session here, and it says this session, the session ID, Sally, and some random string. The owner, instance ID, and you see the reason why I'm connecting is to install web server and the dates. And am I still connected? Of course I am, right? So this is like I said, it keeps track of every activity done by the user. So, and everything that happens is logged in your AWS CloudTrail. So now going to the CLI, don't forget that I said that the CLI has already been configured, right? And we have Sally configured with the secret and access key. So if you come to the management console on the admin account and you come to IAM and you click on security credentials under Sally, you see that one access key was created for Sally, right? So now that we have configured our CLI, so let's just try to connect to SSM using the CLI. So now we know we can't use SSH, but how do we connect using the AWS CLI? So we have to use the AWS SSM command. So let's try to go to AWS documentation as usual to get the command. So SSM CLI. So we can just go to the CLI, the command reference for AWS SSM, and okay, great. So there are a lot of commands here. You can go through them to see, but I'll just go to there's a certain sub command, AWS SSM send command. This helps you send some commands to the server if you want to run some command on the server right here. So if you click on send command here, then we can just scroll. These are the options you can use with the command. I'm just going to scroll down to where I have an example right here, exactly. So I have an example right here that tells me how I can use the command. So it says the following send command example runs an echo command on the target instance. So you can see this is where you put the command. Any command you want it to run, command you're sending to the instance, this is where you put it. So here you have the echo hello world, which will literally just print hello world command on the screen. So if I run this on the Sally session that I have open, I just run echo hello world. Let me paste it. So you can see this command is just basically going to print hello world in the console. So now, since we have something we can use with the CLI, let's just try to copy this command and modify it to suit our need. And as you can see in this command as well, we'll be needing the AWS instance ID. So we need to get the instance ID. We can get the instance ID right from the console. Right here, this is your instance ID. And you can also get it from the CLI. So let's just use the CLI to get the instance ID. So you can do AWS EC2. You can also get how to use this command on the command reference, CLI command reference. So EC2 describe instances. Then I can query and say, okay, I want to query all the instances that I have and get the instance ID reservations and then dot instances dot instance ID and I put my profile. Of course, I'm using the Sally profile. Uh, okay, so can do this. Oh, okay, so I think I need to take this out. Okay, great. So it returns my instance ID. And if you look at what I have here, it ends with a DD96. It is also the same with what I have here, DD96. And I'm running this because this is the only instance we have in the default profile configured for Sally, which is US East 1, which is also the same region where this EC2 instance was created, US East 1. So I mean, querying just returned only one instance ID. So now we can use the command that was copied, right? So now let's go back to the reference. Um, Then I copy the sample command. Let's try to edit it on VS Code. I have some. So let me paste this. Just going to tweak it a little bit. Um, okay, I could just do this. Great. So now I'm going to put my instance ID right here. Let me get the instance ID from the CLI. So I'm just going to put it here, right? And so I'm just going to put a comment here to say install web server, install Nginx web server. And I have to change this command. So one thing I can do is I can just put my new command here, sudo yum install Nginx. And I can even change the command as well, run another one. Oh, I mistyped the Nginx. So I'm just going to run another command to say mk to make another directory, right? Yeah, um, EC2 user, EC2 user. Yeah. So, and I can call it tests, SSM test folder too, right? Okay, this looks good. So I can close the, then, so if you look at this command, AWS SSM send command, the document name. So this document, AWS run shell script, is just allowing you to run a command, a shell command. So then we pass in the parameter, which is a command, the command we want to run, sudo yum install to install an Nginx web server, and also to create a folder. And then we specified our instance ID right here and also put a comment. So now let me run this. So I have to also provide the profile because I'm using Sally profile. So, and Sally is not my default profile. So if Sally were to be my default profile, I wouldn't have to provide it every time. So I'm just going to copy and put it in the terminal. Okay, so let me run this. Great. So now this is the command. So this response, if you look at it, it's just a response from the command we ran. But one thing is there is no status to show if this command was successful. I mean, a status, a success message. You just give a return to say, oh, this is the command you ran, this is the command ID, and the rest. So if you want to get a status, there's also a command that you can use in the CLI. I think it's get invocation command. I'm just going to go back to the reference. Let me take it a step backward. Think is it gets commands, it gets the um status of the console. I think it should be get command invocation right here. So let's look at the sample as usual. Right. So right here is the sample how to use this command. So I'm just going to copy that as well. And I'm going to, put it in VS Code to edit. So let me make this better. Okay, so Um, I'm going to put my instance ID here, which is the one I had here before. And also my command ID. So I got the command ID from the output, which is here. So I could even configure this as an environment variable and pass it into my command. So I'll come back here and just put it here. Then I can run this command to get the status of the initial command that I run. Okay, so just put this here and run it. Oh, something else that I'm missing. I didn't put the profile. Like I said, Sally is not my default profile. So that's why it's complaining that I must specify a region. So I'm just going to bring back the command and specify a profile. So hyphen profile and add Sally. Okay. So let's see if it's going to return a response. Great. So now if you look at this, it returned a status of the initial command we ran with this command ID on this particular EC2 instance with this particular comment, and the document name we used is a run shell script, which allows us to run shell scripts inside the command. And this is the output from the command. If you look at this, it installed um, Nginx, I believe. Yeah, installed Nginx on the server. It was completed, and you see we got a success response. So if this was actually installed successfully, then we should be able to go to the the IP address of the server and get um, and be able to view Nginx. So let's just copy. So don't forget, in our security group, we already have ports 443 and 80 exposed. So we should not have any issues with that. And if you come here, I'm trying to access it. Oh, okay. So it's not coming up. So I'm just going to do this HTTP. Okay. So SSH does not, the Nginx does not seem to be coming up. So let's see why. From the command, was it installed successfully? Okay. So standard output content. Yes, it was installed successfully. Succeeded. Okay. So let's go to our sessions manager from the Sally account to troubleshoot. Let's go to EC2 user to see if the other command that created the folder was run successfully. Okay, so or even less, okay, because this was installed, this gives us access as the SSM user, so that's why it's returning this. So I can just do sudo systemctl status nginx. Oh, so Nginx is not running. So that means we need to start Nginx. So now let me go back to my SSM command and try to run another one that starts Nginx. So right here, I'm going to change the command. Okay, so I could just do that right here then. Let me do that from VS Code. So I'm just going to um, change this command and say start Nginx. I mean, I could have done that in a single command, but oops, I forgot. So now it's going to be sudo systemctl start nginx. So now I'm going to rerun this command to start the nginx service. So I'm going to wait for a response. Okay, fine. And now let's see the status of the command we ran. So I'm just going to take the command ID from the terminal like we did earlier. Okay, and put it right here. Oh, sorry, that's the instance ID. So I put the command ID right here and try to run this command to get the response. So let's see if it was started successfully. Oh, great. So this you can see success. It was started successfully. So now let's go back to our web browser and trying to refresh the page. Exactly. So now we have Nginx installed, and all of this was done using SSM. And if you go back to your instance and you look at the security group, port S22 was not even exposed, and I was still able to configure using my AWS CLI through the SSM. And if you also go to the Sally account, you can see that we tried using this initially to connect, and we were able to do that successfully. So that is just a quick demonstration of how Session Manager works. And I hope this has been informative. Thank you very much for watching.